Hello and welcome to another episode of the Grace Sufficient podcast. We are so happy that you're here.
Hey, baby.
Hi.
What's good? Hi, y'all. You're probably watching this after the day of Thanksgiving. I mean, not the day after Thanksgiving, but the week after Thanksgiving.
Yes.
So, happy Thanksgiving, y'all. Hope everybody had a great time.
Yes.
I know that we had a bunch of things to be thankful and grateful for.
Absolutely.
So,
and we made a post saying that we were going to have an episode last week or the week of Thanksgiving for a couple of reasons. A, we were sick. We all got sick this past week. And then the week before then, like right after we got off our cruise. So it was like back to back colds and like coughing and hardly a voice left. So during this week, we definitely took that time to recover and to spend time with our family.
yeah, absolutely. We had a good time though, and we're still recovering. Our voices are still a little shot, but feeling definitely a lot better. So,
yeah.
Anyways, what do you guys do? Like, what were you thankful for? If you want to share with us, leave it in the comments below.
Love to hear it.
We would definitely love to hear it. Today, we're going to continue the relationship series. And today, we're talking about marriage.
Finally made it.
With our 5-year long experience of marriage.
We're in no way experts at all, nor do we have, all of the time that one would say, wow, these people know what they're talking about. Because I think that 5 years, I still look at that as like, it's not that much. I guess it's because I compare it to the people around me. My parents have been married for decades.
Yeah.
Like since my mom was 18, my dad was like, 21, 22.
Yeah.
And then like we have just people in our lives that have been married for a long time. And so by any means, we're not saying we know it all, but with 5 years, I think we've accumulated a few things that we can pass on to some people. A lot of it is biblical. And I say that because if it wasn't for that book that you're holding right now, for the Bible and God's grace and him showing me what love is, I would not be able to love my husband in the way that he deserves to be loved. And I know he's taking a sip of coffee right now, and he probably would say the same thing right back.
Likewise,
he's told me many times.
No, it's true. I mean, I don't think you cannot love successfully without having a relationship with the one who is love.
Amen.
You can't.
God is love.
It's either love or lust. Sorry, we're going too fast. Let's slow down. All right, so yeah, we've been married for 5 years. I did hear something this week that I thought was really, really interesting, and is that years do not equal wisdom.
Absolutely not.
Right?
We say that about people, and then that's where I think that we fall into that category with our relationship and things that we've gone through, that I think they have helped us to become who we are now.
Mm-hmm.
We've definitely put ourselves in what you could say risky positions, and it's because we've stepped out in faith and really trusted in the Lord and like locked arms together and did that thing and did many different things, and are still navigating through our lives very closely.
Yeah.
One foot in front of the other, walking by faith.
Yeah. I think like with marriage and everything, is a good correlation of the relationship that you have with Christ too. And just like we know, with any relationship, you have to put time and effort. And with that time and effort, God continues to reveal things in the Bible by being, intentional and seeking stuff, right? And knocking so that he can open, new revelations to you. But I have been a lot. I wouldn't say a lot, but I have been in a position where I look at elderly people and I feel like I find it hard to relate with. And I'm not saying like my pastors. There is my parents. There is a few people, but when I say like wisdom and age, really they don't correlate. Like when someone's older, typically there's wisdom because of so many years of experience, right?
Mm-hmm.
So many years of difficulties and tribulations and overcoming and all this stuff. So typically when you see an older person, they have wisdom, but that doesn't necessarily mean wisdom because they're older.
Yeah.
And what I'm saying is like there are some times where I am craving wisdom from somebody that's older than me, yet they're not in the same spiritual level.
Yeah.
It sounds weird because it's not a, but at the same time it's like the basics of the gospel and the normal things that you should be walking into in faith. Sometimes some older people than us, they're just not doing it and their fruits are not there. So it's just like I want advice and I crave that to submit to somebody that can teach me how to get part of this process of this season. But I feel like I have nothing to relate with some older people. And this is why I say like wisdom does not equal, years of age.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you feel something like that too.
Absolutely. I know of some people that are even in my family tree, like that I just can't, there are things that I can't look up to those people for, unfortunately. And this is a disappointment that I felt for a few years now. I think as a teenager, maybe young adult, I felt like some people in my life or that were elders, older than me, not by a whole lot. I wouldn't say like, in the 50s, 60s, just a little bit older than me. And I felt like I could look up to them, maybe that they're going through life and starting certain seasons and stuff. And then once I got older and got into a stronger relationship with God and went through some things on my own, like adulting things. we say adulting, but it's like, you go out into the real world, you get married, you have kids, you have a career, you might have a career change. And I just got older and I just started looking at certain people and I'm like, I can no longer relate, or I guess what I saw in you, I guess it wasn't truly what I should have been looking up to, because once I got more into the word and read more and knew about Jesus' character and saw who it is that he was and when he walked on earth and who he still is, I realized that there was such a big discrepancy between the two things.
Exactly. Like literally, that's literally what came to my mind. It's just like, okay, before you were modeling Jesus for me, right? So I was like, okay, because you're a Christian and you go to church, you must know who he is, because I was submitted to you, or I was just trying to, learn from you. And then you get to a point where you start having your own relationship with God,
and you outgrow,
and then you see the discrepancy, right? You see like
a gap.
Wait a minute, Jesus will not do that. Jesus will not act out. Jesus will not like keep resentment and keep things to themselves. Like he would go ahead in boldness and he would confront the situation, like many different things, right? So I feel like we're like diving into like the second conversation we were thinking of having.
Yes, we're in a different episode right now. It's like when you're in college and you walk into the wrong class, you're like, oh, this is ethics, and you're supposed to be in speech or like math or something. All
right. So let's do this. This episode, let's talk about. So we had the idea to start with the topic of marriage and then go into family relationships. But since we're here, let's go.
They're gonna be so confused. I'm so sorry.
No,
opened up this episode with
the title. The title we'll make sure to put it there.
Yes, sorry about the little switcheroo, but I feel like maybe this was God. I don't know. We have both our kids napping right now, and maybe we won't be able to get through both of them today. But hey, let's just get through something. I wanted to talk about that part where you were talking about wisdom, and that it doesn't necessarily equal age. And this is something that, as I've gotten more into the research of parenting and psychology and different things, like I actually would look into this before I even had kids. But now as I'm a parent and I'm just trying to make sure I do the right things, even though I will not be perfect. I'm trying to make sure that I have the information in order to make good, sound, wise parenting decisions. So I hear parenting psychologists, therapists, and different people that are experts in this field, and they say that it's important to judge not by age but by stage.
Yeah.
And what that means is that certain children, even if you give one child a certain privilege at a certain age, that doesn't mean that the next child, when they reach that age, they're ready for that privilege or that responsibility. And so that's why stage, not age, is so important. And when we look at adults and how they can influence our lives, and other people in our lives, I would not judge just by age. I would also see the stage of life that they're in, the stage and maturity that they're in spiritually speaking, to see if this is a sound person that could impart something in your life. And I would pray about that, because I think God can steer us towards good community and people that can impart wisdom into our lives. He can bring the right people into your life, and I'm praying for that. That's something that I'm constantly praying for, and I desire also. But it's just crazy how we were talking about how, you know, you would expect someone to have a certain level of wisdom due to their age, but you can't always gauge it like that. You have to see their fruit too.
Right. And I think like with that, that's kind of like our hearts in this. Like, we by no means expect to be able to communicate something that's going to bless every person in every relationship, in every walk in life. Mm-hmm. But we're just hoping that something here can be of a blessing and a benefit to you. No matter in what stage of your life you find yourself in, because right now, as I'm thinking of all the older people that have been doing this for a long time and that have been married longer than me, that I love, people in my life that I love and understand that, you know, they've been in a relationship for a while, I know that they could benefit from this conversation because of things that they don't do or things that they do wrong. And you know, it's just like, it gets to a point where, you know, where the children grow up and then they start noticing everything, right? They start noticing the shortcomings, and they start noticing the good things and everything
behavior
in between,
patterns.
You know, behavior patterns. So
I've noticed that with, I mean, we're talking about family, so I feel like it's going to get a little personal here, and I don't want to let it get too personal, in the sense of like, there's some privacy I still want to keep for the sake of there's other people involved. But within my family, I've seen in different sides, both sides of my family, I've seen where there's been roots of division. That's what the enemy wants to create, division within the family, create chaos and confusion, and this person said that thing, or like things just kind of go under the radar, go unspoken, roots of bitterness take over, and then before you know it, people are not talking to each other. And that's just the work of the enemy. That's what he wants. He wants to divide. He does not like the unit of a family being united. He wants the family to be torn apart.
100%.
And if he can, I mean, it's harder to do, I guess, like when families are really rock solid. But if you start from the perimeters, from like, you know, there's gossip, like people just, they just don't sometimes think that it's going to affect the greater whole, but they can. And I think where I'm at right now, and I have been for a while, is at the disappointment stage, where I feel like, man, I wish certain people were like this, were better, were more like they had a better relationship with God, so that they knew how to steward their relationships and their families and their what God has given them, because it like ends up giving a product that is not a good one. It gives off roots or like product of negative things. Yeah. And you see it from the outside, and it's like, oh, I don't want that for you. But yeah. I think like the disappointment that I feel right now is just like not having good role models to look up to. Obviously I have my parents, and I have like good surrounding people, like the people that surround me. I make sure that I'm wise in picking the people that are around me the closest, but I just wish that there were more. I don't know. I'm sure. Getting kind of like vulnerable talking about this, but it's the disappointment. It's like, man, but you knew better. And at a certain stage, like a while ago, I looked up to you, but now I can no longer look up to you because and it's not to say that like I'm looking down on you now, or like, how dare you? Like it's it's not that kind of, I'm not judging them. It's just, I wish that you could have this knowledge, this like water that never runs dry. That's Jesus Christ. And he can when you can't.
Right. I just got to say, because before we get into like a little bit deeper conversations in here, I want to calibrate and make sure that everybody understands that we have such a beautiful family. We are so blessed to have the people that we have in our lives. We could not do what we do without them. You know, we're in unity because that's what it's intended to do and intended to be. Family is supposed to stay together. Family is supposed to be strong together. Family is the place that you should find that place of protection and safety where you could go with all your vulnerability and go to that place and feel safe. You know, that's what it should be. Not every family is like that, but we're blessed to have a great family in your side and in my side.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And you're not going to find any family that's perfect.
Nope.
You never will find it. But baby, I agree with you so much on that. So my disappointment personally starts when I was very young, because I always had like, I was always thinking, like I tell you all the time, my brain doesn't stop, and it's kind of annoying. Like sometimes I just wanted to stop because there is always running with something. It's always thinking. And sometimes the only thing that I find that can calm my mind is just spending time with Jesus. Because I put all my thoughts away and I'm like, I surrender into him, and then I can just like spend time with him. But other than that, my mind is just like this, constantly thinking. And when I was younger, I remember thinking a lot about like my parents, and I'm just like, why couldn't they do it right? Like, you know, why couldn't they fight for each other? Why am I paying the price for the mistakes they made? You know? And right now in society, it's such a common thing that it's just not even weird anymore. You're expecting friends and families and people from school and other places. When you ask him, it's almost like, oh, who is your family? Well, I never met my dad, and I have a mom, but she's always working. Like there's always conversations like that where one or two parents are not involved in the conversation at all. Mm-hmm. And it's so sad to see, because I understand that in order to have good safety and security and healthy attachments and all that, you need both your parents. Mm-hmm. And I didn't have that. I had it, but it was compromise. It was a counterfeit. You know what I'm saying? Like, I didn't get to celebrate any of my birthdays where I could see my mom and my dad work together and happy. Like, I just didn't have that. Right? And that's nothing that I personally did, but a lot of times we blame ourselves for the mistakes that our parents made. Mm-hmm. We think that it is our fault, that we're supposed to somehow be the glue to hold a marriage together. Yeah. And that is extremely disappointing.
And I was just thinking right now about how, like, what version of your parents you had whenever you would spend, I don't know, like the weekends with your dad or sometime with your mom, and you guys were like trading off. I would think that maybe this is an assumption, maybe this isn't true, but that you would get like this overly excited, overly inflated version of, like, say, your dad that would like maybe surround you with gifts and different things, and that if you would have had maybe both parents together, it was just more of like an even thing, where when you saw him and you and your brother would spend time with him, it was like, you know, video games and doing fun stuff and like just kind of like overstimulating with like fun things just to like make things memorable. Yeah.
I think I always favored being with my dad because he was the person that I spent the less amount of time with. So it was like I didn't get to see him that often, so I wanted to spend more time with them. And anytime that I would spend time with them, it was almost like, this is amazing. Yeah. You know, that's literally what it felt. It felt like anytime that I would be with my dad, it was just like the best time ever. Mm-hmm. And because I've experienced that and I have context, I can relate with so many people that either haven't met their dad. I know what it feels like not to be with your dad, or the people that, you know, are separated and then you get to spend a little bit of time with your mom, a little bit of time with your dad, and then you grow up with, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
And that is why, and this is almost like a little bit of a side note, but that is why for me, the non-negotiable of staying married for the rest of my life was a real deal. Like, I'm not willing to compromise my family. Anytime that I get upset at you or that we fight or anything like that, first of all, because of my relationship with Christ, I can forgive, I can adjust, I can love you no matter what. But then when I see my kids, I'm like, this is our life. This is my son, this is my daughter. And the best thing for them is for us to be together. It's not even everything that I can give them physically. It's everything that we can experience as a family, because I know the context. Mm-hmm. And the crazy thing is they might never appreciate it the way that I did or that I do, because they didn't see the contrast. They're just kind of experience it like you did. That you always had your parents, your mom and your dad. You never seen them separate. But just for a second, imagine this. Imagine that you only saw your mom during the week and you only saw your dad during the weekend. And they were never together. How, literally, imagine that for a quick second and feel the void.
It just makes me want to cry. Yeah, I never experienced anything like that. And I'm always so... It makes me sad when I hear you talk about that, because that part of your life is real. And when I see you and talk to you and you're healed from a lot of those things, and you're not operating out of a place of bitterness or resentment or an empty cup. And I thank God for that, because I think that's been a lot of years of working through that with you and God. But yeah, I've never experienced anything like that. And my heart goes out to anybody that has had to deal with parents that are separated, or a family that is broken in some sort of way. Maybe a parent that is no longer living. I can't imagine. It's incredibly difficult to have a life after that happens, and to act like everything's normal, because it's not. That's not the normal way. That's not the way that God designed family to be.
And you're right. I'm not operating from a place of I don't know. I'm operating from a place of healing, right? But it doesn't change that it happened, and I grieve. I grieve for those people that are going through it currently. Whether it was just a voluntary separation from your parents and from other people, or it was just an event. It was, losing a loved one or a family loved person due to a tragedy or an incident, or they went to prison. I mean, there's so many different situations, but I hear you and I understand the frustration and the pain. If you don't heal from that, it doesn't change when you get older. You always have that void. You know what I'm saying, baby?
Yeah. I can already think about a couple of people that I know that are young, that are in those shoes, and you can definitely see how, behaviorally speaking, I said that weird, they are changing. Life is changing, hormones are changing, growing up, high school, missing a parent. And you can just see how they're actively changing. And it's like that, when Spider-Man went through his emo phase, and it was a lot of anger and just big emotions. I mean, I'm kind of hyping it up more than it probably needs to be, but you can see that stark change in some of these people that I have in my mind right now that are in our lives. And it's sad, because you just want to give them a hug.
Yeah.
And you just want to take them under your wing. And we do that with some of the people that we've been able to have closeness with and intimacy with as their youth pastors. And it's just something you get exposed to, that especially for me, that I did not grow up with separated parents and with big time family issues. Like Johnny said, no family is perfect. You're always going to have something come up, right? But as a whole, I had a pretty normal, happy, healthy upbringing. And to see this other side of people coming from broken families, or families that are actively going through really hard things, it like tugs at my heartstrings, because I'm like, I can't even imagine going through that.
Yeah.
And I just hope and pray that God like gives me the wisdom and the words and the just wisdom to be able to comfort them through the comfort that I know God can give them, and love on them the way that Christ would love them.
Yeah.
And tell them, it's going to be all right. You have a family here. And this is also another side note. You can choose the people that you surround yourself with. So for the people that maybe don't have those pillars in their families, I know that some people like to lean on some friends to give them that support. Now, I wouldn't say, replacing friends for family because your family sucks and they don't want to talk to you, or, you have beef with them. Like, definitely restore those relationships and know that there is value in the family that God has chosen for you, the family that you were born into. There is value in them. And also have healthy boundaries with some people that are also considered family, but they're maybe dragging you down rather than boosting you up. There's that fine line where you have to be like, how much can I let certain people into my life, even if they are family? And that's where sometimes choosing friends to be really close to you, where family maybe is not there, is helpful, especially people that live far away, don't have family nearby. That's why Friendsgiving, I feel like it could be a gift for a lot of people when used in the right way, like in a supplementary kind of way. Like they have their normal Thanksgiving with their family if they have them around, and then they can have some, food with their friends and have a nice little get together. But if you have family that's with you, that you're close by, that you can go to, like, don't skip on going to their Thanksgiving or their, Christmas Eve or Christmas, whatever, just because you have beef with them, or there's going to be drama or whatever, and then you want to like choose to go with your friends instead, and you just ditch them. Like, I feel like we need to still hold value to the family unit and still try and make an effort as best as we can to have unity. Because remember, the enemy is always going to want to have division, and he's going to want those roots of bitterness to take over.
I have as we're talking about this, let's continue to talk about family, but I want to mention something in the Bible. This is found in Genesis, I think it's 35 on, which is Joseph. The whole story about Joseph and his family.
Yes.
So, with family, guys, I don't know the situation that you might be going through with your family, whether you're having beef with your parents, your siblings, your uncles, your aunts, your grandparents. But one thing that I can tell you is that family is important, and the enemy is always going to want to separate you from your family, because when there is a united family, is a threat for the enemy. But not only that, but God intended unity. That's why the enemy is going to always mean a counterfeit, and he's going to try to separate what God meant for it to be together. It's just what the enemy does. He's going to do the exact opposite of what God does. And he's going to make it seem like it's okay. It is not okay that you don't have a relationship with your dad. It is not okay that you don't talk to your mom. It is not okay that you haven't forgive, your siblings. It is not okay. And we know that there's so many times and so many instances where our families is where we found our biggest traumas and our biggest hurts. There were things that could have happened to us and that did happen to us that were out of our control. But the moment that you have understanding, it is not longer what happened to you. Now it's your responsibility to heal from it. It is your responsibility to forgive. And remember, forgiving is not as much as for them as it is for you. That cell of bitterness that you find yourself in, where you don't feel like you can communicate, you cannot talk, you cannot share, you cannot open up, you need to forgive so that you can be free.
Yes.
And in that restoration from within, you might restore your relationship. And as you show them forgiveness, in Christ Jesus, they might also be restored.
It's a beautiful testimony. And that's what testimony, that's one of the purposes of testimony, is that you do it, something happens to you, and then it inspires or encourages someone else to do the same. And when God is in the midst of that and he is part of your testimony, and somebody sees that and hears that and watches that transformation unfold, you can only inspire other people to do the same through the work of Jesus Christ in their lives.
And it's super hard though. Like, obviously forgiving someone when they are the reason for your pain and your trauma and all this stuff is not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
But it's not meant for you to do it. It's not meant for you to carry it by yourself.
Yes.
It's meant for you to bring it to Jesus, and then for him to give you the power, the love, and the self-control for you to go and go against that thing that has been haunting you your whole life, confront it, and even heal that relationship. Forgiving does not mean forgetting. It means just moving on. You can set healthy boundaries within your families. You can set healthy boundaries within certain relationships to where you keep it at a healthy distance so that both sides of the relationship can benefit from it, and so that there's no room for any potential pain or any potential friction, because there's a healthy boundary established. I have a healthy boundary with my dad. I could say that I also have a healthy boundary with my mom. There are certain things that I cannot talk about with my mom. There's certain things I cannot talk to my dad about. And it goes back to kind of with the conversation that we were having. Our parents will always be our heroes. But there comes a point in your relationship with Christ that even though we were looking up to them, we realize that the true hero is Jesus. Mm-hmm. And if they're not imitating him, and if they're not truly representing him, then my admiration and my vision goes directly back to him, back to Christ. Because I cannot follow someone that is not representing him properly. It doesn't matter who it is.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean that we should not still honor our parents. That is something that we should always do. Now, if there's I don't know what kinds of parents people that are listening to this have, and if a parent is telling you like, hey, commit this crime, it's fine. No. Like that kind of thing, you don't. This isn't what I'm talking about. Obviously, within the context of like, if your parent is seeing something and they know better, they have the experience, they're saying, hey, I want you to reconsider this, and honor your parents, even if you're at an older age. I know my mom still like honors her parents, my dad too, and they're much older, and my grandma has like her opinions, and she has her wisdom, and she'll say like there's like cooking advice that she still gives my mom, and she's like, oh, how much time should I leave this for? And she's like, no, don't do that. And she still listens to her and my grandpa and goes to them for advice about daily things. Like I think that's really sweet, and I find myself doing that in my life right now as I'm a young mom with young kids, and I kind of go to my mom and say, hey, how did you do this when you had 2 under 2 or 2 under 3? I think that's really nice. But honoring your mother and your father, that's something that I will see myself doing for as long as I live, for as long as they live. And it's what Johnny was saying is that there's things that you can look up to some people for, and parents, we're talking about parents here, but there's a point where you kind of feel like you outgrow them in a certain way. And let me just explain this. I don't mean this in a bad way. My parents have always told me this, especially my dad, because he's like the one that's like, he gives me all the speeches and like the life talks. My mom too, but my dad is like the king of that. He'll say, I want you girls to be as good or better than us, like in the same, to reach the things that we've reached or more. And I hope it's more. I hope you guys like surpass us. And I've always seen that as such a like noble thing to want for your kids, that there are some parents, sadly, that they want their kids to stay at their level or below it, and they don't ever want them to surpass them. That's so sad.
You know why that is, right?
Pride.
Well, not only that is a component of it, but it's also if they're not dependent on me, then they might not need me. And it comes from a place of like
insecurity.
Insecurity and scarcity mindset.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's good. But my parents always made sure that we were always reaching up and high, and there was gonna be I don't think they've ever said this like in the same way, but with those words, what they meant is like, there may be a day where you surpass me, and I hope that day comes. Like, I hope you go above where I'm at. I hope, like, career wise, you go above, financially speaking, children wise, like wisdom. I hope you do go above. And I've always loved them saying that, because they never set a limitation for my growth.
And that we're not talking about financially, like,
no, as a person, as a whole,
right?
Yeah,
like
in life,
maturity, decision making, as a mom, as a dad, as a husband, as a wife, mental health. Like, money is a component, but that's not, like, that doesn't define you. That doesn't make you. A dollar sign doesn't tell the story of who you are. Yeah. It just tells a story about a business that is running properly, right?
Yeah, and your stewardship.
Exactly. So that is really good, baby. And I, going back to my mom and my dad, there are so many things that the reason that I am who I am is because of them. Like my thing with punctuality, like, that's my dad all day long.
Yeah, my thing with like reading instructions. Did you read the instructions first? That's like my dad all day long.
And then like stuff like as simple as always having like the desire to provide for my family didn't come from anything my dad told me. It came from a place of me seeing him do it.
What he showed you.
Because I spend enough time with my father.
Yeah.
So now what I do reflects him, right?
Yep.
So with my mom, being kind, loving, and being bubbly, and like just laughing at things, and just like having a lighthearted, fun relationship with other people, like her being a light everywhere she goes, and like, I learned that from my mom. So like, I am I am who I am because of my parents,
Yeah.
So it's a beautiful thing. And as we grow, it's like life, you start as a baby and your parents are like right here. And as time goes by, it's almost like a balance scale that just goes like this. And eventually you are the one taking care of them. You are the one instructing them until it goes into a full cycle. Mm-hmm. And then you become the figure that protects them. Mm-hmm. Right. And I feel like we're that's like almost transition from a place where like, I wish I could give some advice to some of my parents. And you do. And it's like mostly
such a graceful way you do.
Yeah. And most of it revolves around this.
Yes.
Like most of it revolves around the Bible. Like it's not like, hey, Dad, you need to be a better provider. Like I don't have to say stuff like that. But I just wish that I could see more of him on this. Mm-hmm. I wish I could see my mom on this and
like reading
and then
the
I could ask him, like, Mom, what do you think about this? Why am I going through this process? But I can, because I'm at a point in my life where my walk with Jesus has surpassed theirs. You know what I'm saying? So it's just like, it's a little frustrating, but it's just life, right? Yeah. I wanted to talk to you about, what about those close relationships, siblings?
Like I was cousins. Just gonna tell you, like, let's talk siblings because they're part of family. Also cousins. Man. Also, is that gonna be a problem? That pop up on the computer?
No, baby, that's not a problem.
Okay, so siblings. This is something that, as we now have 2 kids that are starting to, Gabby's like talking more. Jonah's kind of like repeating some words. He's starting to walk. They're starting to kind of like level out a little bit, which is so fun seeing them like playing together. And as they play together, they also kind of like annoy each other. And one might take a toy from another, and then the other one starts crying, and it's a thing. So I'm in this stage now, as I'm taking care of them daily at home. I'm trying to do the best that I can to do 2 things, like let them resolve their own issues. Sometimes it's good to give them a little space and be like, okay, how are you going to deal with that? And also be a good, like, I don't want to say like referee, but like also be like an intermediate person that's like, hey, let me help you with that, because Jonah's still very little. So I want to stand up for the little one that gets sometimes not bullied, but like just Gabby like takes toys away from him and stuff. But that's just going to happen. That's just what siblings do. Sometimes they go through that stage of life and then they end up, fist bumping and they're fine. But cultivating and fostering that relationship between siblings is something I'm right now I'm trying to learn how to do. And I think back on when I was younger, when I had my sister, we're about a year and 5 months apart, and we've always been very close. And so with our upbringing, we've always been like BFFs, but also that came with like our fair share of Barbie fights, and she cut my Barbie's hair and then crying. And then
I used to throw my brother's Hot Wheels through the car window.
Oh my God.
So yeah, beat that.
I remember us getting into little arguments and stuff. And my parents always, this is something I always remember, they would make sure anytime we had like a big fight or something like that, they would bring us back together. And it was the most annoying thing for me at the time, because I'm like, I don't want to look at her in the eyes. I don't want to talk to her. I don't want to hug her. And they would be like, okay, guys, work it out. And then they would say, you did this to this person. How did you feel when they did that? And kind of like do counseling session and be like, well, work it out. You guys are sisters. You guys are meant to be together for once we are gone and we're out of here, out of this life. You guys are going to have left. We don't have another sibling coming. It's just you guys. And they always, like, I would say kind of forced us to like work it out. And I remember this one particular day, like, I don't know if it was like a really big thing that happened or I just remembered this particular time, but my dad was like, what if I took your sister and took her to China all the way across the other side of the world and you no longer had a sister here?
That's horrible.
I know, like, it's horrible. Yeah, why would you say that to my... And I just started crying. I was just a little kid. I was probably like 4 or 5 years old. And it's because, like, exactly in that moment... You don't
know what you don't know.
Exactly. I realized, I'm like, I don't know what I would do without my sister. Like, she's the one I played with. She's the one I would walk to school with my mom. She was the one that would lend me her crayons at church when we were there together, sitting together, waiting for service to finish. And we were always together. But yeah, we bickered and we kind of went through that rough stage in our lives. But that's just, I think my parents were also learning how to have 2 girls, and this stage they were also navigating that for the first time. So they were just trying their best to always bring us back together.
I feel like you had a really healthy relationship overall. Like I see
now we've always been best friends, and we are best friends now.
Like I see your relationship and I'm like, yes, like I want that for my daughter. I want that for my son, my relationship with my brother. So just so you guys have context, I have
Johnny's gonna do the math right now. 4. He has a lot of siblings.
No, I have 4. I have my older brother.
Carry the 1.
I have Enrique, which is my younger brother, and then I have my 2 sisters, right? So my full brother is my older brother. I was raised with them. The other 2 daughters is from a different marriage, and then I have a younger brother from a previous relationship that my dad had. So, but that we all communicate, like, we see each other. My younger brother's in Venezuela, but my relationship, my real relationship was with my older brother, and we fought a lot. We fought a lot growing up. I was 3 years younger than him, so I was automatically bullied. It's just how it happens, right? So and when I mean bullied, like, I don't mean it in a bad way. Like, there was some bad instances, but it wasn't a bad relationship. We just fought.
He did bully you because he was, if you would think down to the stuff that he did, which he's so internally sorry for, and he tells you all the time. But like, the truth of it is that you weren't the only kid going through that whole divorce and like separated.
That's what I was gonna say.
He saw the whole thing and remembers more than you do.
The reason why my brother, I think, bullied me was because he was acting out in pain because of my parents' separation. He's I think he's an impact. Like, he feels things a lot, like way more than me. And I feel things, but like, he just feels a lot and he remembers a lot. So I feel like it was just a reaction of everything that was happening. And you know, you don't think about it. It's like, oh yeah, I'm going to just go find love again. And then your kids are fighting with each other and you think that they're just bad kids. No, it's because of you, because of what you did. Yeah. So I think, you know, our relationship was okay. I wouldn't say it's like it was good. We were fighting with Barbies. No, we were like punching each other, punching doors, punching holes through the doors, and breaking internet modems.
Oh my goodness!
It was like screaming.
Your mom is
our neighbors telling us to shut up because we were too loud, like fighting and crying.
And mom is at work at this time, right?
Mom was at work, and then when she would get home, she would like lay it down. So anyways, but it was, you know, I had a seasoned, I don't know, I had a fun childhood, I will say, but you know, it came with a lot of pain. But I believe that your siblings and your relationship with your siblings is extremely important, and I do believe that the enemy does an extremely good job in the United States to separate families, to separate siblings. I see it everywhere. Things that don't happen in in other cultures, because the culture in other countries is very family oriented. Mm-hmm. Like, it's just like in Venezuela. I remember when we used, you know, my aunts would go to work. They would get off at 12 and they would have basically a 2-hour break, so they would go home and break bread with their families and even take a nap if they wanted. That was the family oriented culture that we had. In here, you don't have that. You have to work and continue to work and then work some more. You know, it's just like the culture in the United States is faulty. It really is. So now us experiencing this, I can see how that has impacted your family. I can see how it's impacted my family. And I do the best that I can to continue to keep everybody and all my siblings united. But the moment that, you know, they grow up and have like different opinions and different perspective, it can get tricky. That's where you create your healthy boundaries, and you keep things in a way where there is mutual respect within your family. You respect them. You also, you know, I think that you always have a duty, whether you're the younger brother or the older brother, to tell your siblings when they're not doing something right and when they could be doing better. And same, like vice versa. It's something that you should submit to your siblings in that sense, because I don't believe that they're ever going to tell you something that they don't mean for well, that they don't mean for good for you. But the one thing that I will say when it comes to siblings is do the very best job that you can possibly do in keeping your siblings relationship authentic and keeping it strong. Yeah. Because when both your parents grow up, the only person that you're gonna have to support you is gonna be your sister. And if you both are separated, good luck with that.
Yeah, we definitely need our siblings. And I was thinking when you were talking about unity, and I don't remember exactly what you were saying, but I thought about extracurriculars. Here in America, there's so much that people do after school. There's so much like busyness that we can get into. There's, you know, some parents don't get off until much later, and we can fill our plates with a lot of different things. Like one parent is over here grocery shopping, the other one's taking the other kid to karate, then maybe the other parent is picking up the other kid from band or ballet or whatever. There's so many things, and sometimes you may not even have that close relationship with your siblings because you maybe are like two ships passing in the night. One sibling goes to this school or goes in at this time, and you know, you have different things, but always come back to each other and seek each other. I think that even if you have a large age gap, try to find something that sibling likes that maybe you like too, or maybe you may not have an interest in, but they have an interest, and just try to cater to that interest and see if maybe this is something you guys can bond over. Maybe find something that you both can bond over and spend quality time with. Because life will pass you by like this. And I know personally I'm thinking of one sibling pair that has a large gap of years. I'm talking like elementary school and college or high school. Yeah, actually after high school. And there's a big gap. But yeah, I see these two siblings try to find each other in different ways. And it's so cute because I I tell this person all the time, the older sibling, I tell them, this is just a season right now. You'll see that once you get older and you're both adults, once this other sibling catches up to you and you're both adults, you're going to find so much more common ground, and you'll be able to relate on a whole different level. Because right now they might be the annoying little sibling, or the, you know, the one that you can't really relate with. But someday in the future, you're all you're going to have is that sibling or that cousin, you know. I'm going to go get Mr. Jonah because
I think he stopped crying.
Okay. Yeah, I don't hear
like
him.
If we stop for a second, maybe we can hear him. Let's see.
I don't hear him. Oh no!
No, he's crying.
Okay.
No,
just taking a breath.
Just give him a couple minutes, because sometimes he does that and he goes back to sleep.
We're wrapping up in a little bit. Actually, I know him very well, and at this time, with what he just slept, he is not going back to sleep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let's wrap up. But before we do, let's just kind of touch in the area of uncles and grandparents. I feel like they are, like, for me personally, my grandma was the biggest influence in my life, in my walk with Christ, right? And I know that your grandparents had, you know, one of your grandparents raised you too.
One of my sets. Well, they helped
the sets of grandparents, yeah. So like, I know, man, family is just such a powerful thing, man. Don't ever, you know, forfeit what God gave you, you know. Mm-hmm. Don't ever like think that you were born into the wrong family. Like, don't ever think that. It don't matter how difficult it gets. It don't matter how complicated it is. There's always a blessing within your family, and there's people that love you and that want to protect you. And there's also people within your family that are faulty and full of sin that you need to be careful with, right? Yeah. That being said, you know, ask God to reveal to you who are the people within your family that you can confide on, that you can be transparent with, that you can open up with. Because like, one thing that I don't feel like I have, I think that I do with my older brother, and is that I feel like I can tell him pretty much anything, and he has the not only the emotional and intellectual capacity, but also the spiritual understanding to meet me where I'm at and give me good, solid advice.
Yes.
But it is so frustrating when you don't have anyone in your family that you can actually talk to about life. You know, so I think that if you having a hard time finding somebody that you can confide on, just pray to God. Pray to God that he can place somebody in your life like a role model that you can follow.
Yeah.
You know, but if you get anything out of this episode, is family is important. Please, please, please do the very best that you can to always reconcile and be together with your family. And with that being said, y'all, we're going to wrap this one up because the baby is crying, but we love you guys so much. And we'll see you in the next one, right, baby?
Yes, we will. I think the camera stopped recording, but bye. Love you guys.
Bye.